Hi, my name is Zach Hirsch. I'm a teenage sports analyst and handicapper.
And this is Scott Morganroth here at the Sports Exchange as we welcome our star handicapper, Zach Hirsch, to the broadcast. And Zach, glad to have you on the program tonight. Obviously, I'm really interested in what you've got to offer. So I'm glad that you love up the broadcast today. How's that sound?
Sounds great. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, anyway, Zach, why don't you let the audience know a lot about what you're doing?
So this past June, I launched my own company and website called I Pick Wins, and my design was to get my expert analysis and predictions out to the public for free. So I was able to do this on my Instagram and website, ipickwins.com, and I was able to have the best success rate out of every sports handicapper. I was able to do 100% on college football picks, 90% of my NFL picks. I do MMA, boxing, and my main goal is to educate the public and help people and give out my expert analysis.
Very good. Okay, now I'm sure you heard of the recent news that UFC 249 was canceled. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
So what's your take on that?
It's something I expected. California is just based off what the politicians were saying, their governor was saying. It didn't sound like they were too interested in doing too much at the moment. They were trying to do it on a Seminole reservation type thing, and they thought they had a deal in place. But ultimately, they do work for ESPN and Disney now. It's a big change. They're a huge company. They didn't want the backlash to have them put on an event during this global pandemic, at least not the way it is right now. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are sick. So it's not really a surprise to me. It's a disappointment as a fan, but as a human being, I understand it from Disney's perspective and ESPN's perspective.
So are you telling me that Disney was the major reason why they decided to pull the event? I know that anytime you do something on tribal land, that it is exempt. Is it more of a public backlash than anything that caused this event to be canceled?
Yeah. They had politicians in California not publicly saying they don't agree with it. They had a lot of backlash from people. And what really did them in, I think, was the fact that where the event was taking place got leaked to the public. So originally they weren't going to disclose exactly where it was going to be or even the state. And then the public got a hold of where it was going to be, so people started asking them not to hold the event, and then ESPN got wind of it, received the backlash, and ultimately they have the final say.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, too, on Get Up. Was it yesterday or the day before? Mike Greenberg went ahead and had Dana White on, and he tried to get it out of White, and White was as solid as you can be. But you know what? Zach, in this day and age, you know what? Things are going to get out whether you like it or not, and it's just the way it is. And but I think, in all, I commend Dana White for wanting to do the event, but the timing was definitely not appropriate for it to occur. So, all right, let's tell our audience out here, and you're listening to the Sports Exchange here on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. You can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South, on Instagram at South Florida Tribune, as well as Facebook, South Florida Tribune as well. So, all right, Zach, let's proceed and give people more information about your website and what you're trying to get done with it in a bit more detail.
So ipickwins.com was designed, it was actually originally supposed to be a school project. I never quite expected to take off the way I did, and receiving thousands of clicks on the website, hundreds of thousands of followers on the Instagram, and really I give out my picks for free. They call me Mystic Zach. That's my nickname. That's my alias. And I'm actually the number one sports handicapper, at least this past season, as far as record prediction number. I started off the year 15-0, and I pick the game straight up. I don't do money spread. I don't encourage anybody to gamble. It's just my picks. It's just who I think's going to win. And I give out detailed analysis and videos on who I think's going to win on my website, ipickwins.com.
Are you able to draw any income off of this, or how do you generate your income? I can't imagine someone like you would just go out there and give it for free without any financial benefit.
Right now, the picks are 100% free. As of now, I'm good on the money side, but this upcoming year, I am planning on launching my own daily fantasy sports website called ipickthegame.com, and I have a lot of unique, fun stuff that's going to be on this website. It's not like any other. So that's what I'm working on right now. It's going to be up and running for this upcoming NFL season.
How did you get into this, Zach?
Well, to be honest, I've always loved sports since I was a little kid. My father has always worked in the boxing business since I was a very small child. When I was 4 years old, my dad managed Shannon the Cannon Briggs, and he was able to capture a world heavyweight title. And I've always grew up in boxing gyms. The famous trainer Manuel Stewart used to sleep in my house. And I always loved sports. When I was little, instead of watching SpongeBob, I would watch Sports Center. I would get up, eat cereal, and watch Sports Center for 5 hours a day. I would try to remember every player for every team, look up every ranking, look up every statistic. I would play Madden and look at the rosters and the ratings and just try to analyze why I think each team is better than the other. My dad would take me to boxing matches. I would always watch boxing, hanging out with boxers. And I've always loved combat sports, football. I always played football and basketball. So it's always just been my number one passion since I was a very, very small child.
Yeah, combat sports are interesting. I have a pretty steep background, too. I remember working with Angelo Dundee many years ago. I took photos with James Toney, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard are some of my favorites, and of course Chuck Wepner as well. So, I remember ESPN when it was launched in 1979 and with all the originals there. And for a lot of years they had top-ranked boxing on there. And, to me, I don't know, it's too bad that boxing doesn't have enough matches to keep it more relevant, except when it's on there periodically, because the history of boxing is just unbelievable. It really is. No disrespect towards MMA, but it is the new kid on the block. Boxing has the Joe Lewis's, Rocky Marcianos, and the beat goes on and on. So, but anyways,
Boxing's the original.
Yeah. So tell me about your experiences with Shannon Briggs and some of the other ones.
So that's actually part of the allure for iPick Wins, specifically the Instagram, is that on my page you're not going to know who you're going to see next, all the different celebrities and athletes I've gotten the opportunity to meet. And so Shannon Briggs is a guy I grew up with. He's an amazing guy, amazing friend of mine and my dad's. And my dad's been his manager since 2006. They were able to capture the world heavyweight title. My dad was also managing Jamil McCline at the time, a top heavyweight who fought for the title against Vladimir Klitschko. And through Shannon, I've gotten to meet some awesome people, and through some other opportunities, I got to hang out and meet Bernie Kosar and Dan Marino. This past month, I was able to do some awesome stuff at the Super Bowl. And with Shannon, he was actually training a top social influencer, Logan Paul, for his upcoming boxing match against KSI, and they were able to sell out the Staples Center and put on the most viewed DAZN broadcast the whole year, and the most viewed boxing match for the whole year. And Shannon trained Logan, and I was able to hang out with him and some other guys and really combine the sports picks with the social influence, which I think is a big one because it's important specifically to get boxing out to kids and teach them about the value of it and the rich history of it and the tradition of it as a sport that's been around for so many years.
Have you ever been asked by ESPN or some of these other networks to come on any broadcast or anything? I would think with your knowledge and intellect and passion for it that they could use somebody like you to provide a younger perspective to the millennial audience.
I've had some talks with DAZN. I did a little broadcast with them. I wasn't quite 18 yet, though, so I'm still expanding the horizons, getting my name out there. I've talked to some people at The Ringer. The opportunities have come, but right now I'm still very young. I'm scouting my opportunities, and we'll see what happens with my upcoming daily fantasy site. And I'm looking forward to writing some great articles and doing some great things with the South Florida Tribute.
Well, we're really, really excited to have you. So I've got to put you on the spot. Give me a list of your top 5 fighters.
My top 5 current boxers?
No, I'm not going to get you off the hook. You're hanging around all these people. You give me a top 5 of all time. And then we'll start promoting your stories ahead of time when I start getting them on a regular basis as we get you involved more and more. But I have to hit you with a top 5. And then, you know what, Zach, to be fair to you, I'll let you give me the top current ones. How does that? You got 5 and 5. Go ahead.
That sounds great.
Go ahead.
So the top 5 greatest, in my opinion, no order. Muhammad Ali, the greatest. He was the guy who moved like a middleweight, but he was a heavyweight. So inspirational. And really the most influential boxer of all time, no doubt about it. One of the most influential athletes of all time. He is the greatest. And then, of course, Floyd Mayweather, the best ever, able to go 50-0 against some steep competition, undefeated in championship fights, was never knocked down, was never seriously injured. in my opinion, the most dominant boxer. If you want to talk about the hardest to beat, it's Floyd Mayweather, the greatest, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, incredible career. When you really look at durability and ability to keep on fighting and winning, Sugar Ray Robinson is definitely number one. That guy had over 200 fights. He never stopped fighting. He was an absolute legend, and a guy I never got to watch, but anyone who did get to watch him swears that he is the absolute best ever. And I wish we could get some more footage of him so I could really get to analyze him and get to watch him up closer. But that's okay. I have George Foreman up there. George Foreman, tremendous power, tremendous chin. He was able to do it up until his very late 40s. He was able to have some great battles with some of the all-time best heavyweights. And in my opinion, you can't have a top boxing list without a guy like George Foreman. And then number 5, it's really tough because boxing has been a sport that's been around for so many years. It's a sport that has been around for over 100 years. So do you rank a guy like Harry Greb who had so many fights, but it's not on, but you can't watch it somehow?
Right. Yeah, right.
Or do you rank a guy like Manny Pacquiao who was able to capture world titles in 8 different weight classes? It's Julio Cesar, but I think I'm going to have to go with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. He started off his career 89-0, so tough, such a warrior, and an all-time great Mexican fighter.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you know what we're going to have to do is just bring you on as a boxing analyst, and then the time comes, I'll incorporate you into football, because you know what, I would love to give this sport so much attention since you've been brought up with the whole thing. You know what, you've got my wheels turning, and being from the Motor City doesn't take a whole lot to get my wheels turning, Zach, that's for sure. I mean, the other stuff that you have intrigues me. We'll talk about that as time goes on, but we're going to put you on the boxing thing and put you on the spot right away. There's always room for you on, especially when it comes to the sweet science. So,
yeah.
So go ahead, talk about some of your other things that you have going on. You've got about another 10 more minutes to go.
Yeah, so my other things I've got going on, this past January, I was able to go up to where Jake Paul was training, the social influencer. He had a boxing match and a huge bout. This was about that. The clip of it has over 10 million views, I believe, on YouTube. Jake Paul has over 20 million subscribers on YouTube. He's one of the top social influencers. And he had a match, and I was able to go up with him, predict the match. Me and him are friends. And after the Super Bowl, things started to slow down significantly. And, of course, this national pandemic now, there hasn't been much to predict. Honestly, the last big bout we had was Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, too. That was an amazing fight, terrific. Tyson Fury is, in my opinion, the absolute best heavyweight in the world right now. The things he was able to do in that fight was phenomenal. Everyone was doubting him. I was actually at a party hosted by me, and this was to raise money for Vila Brit in the country of Haiti. And we had many pro boxers there: Shannon Briggs, Jamil McCline, former 5-time world champion Corey Spinks, legendary street fighter Dada 5000, and every single one picked Deontay Wilder, every single person there, and I was the only person to pick Tyson Fury, and everyone was so shocked when Fury was able to overcome him like that, and I just think Fury's a phenomenal champion. All
right, so my question to you, with that said, okay, they're headed toward a rematch, so now you have a draw, and you have, that was an impressive win, I should say, for, was it Fury, you're saying? So
yeah.
How does Act 3 turn out?
I'm going to say it on the air right now. As
Go
of
ahead.
now, I see absolutely nothing changing. I think, if anything, it'll be easier for Tyson Fury in the next fight. He was just getting incorporated with the Kronk style, working with Sugar Hill. He'd only been working on it for 3 months. I can only imagine how good he's going to be with all this time to learn. I'm going to be honest with you. I've been watching Deontay Wilder's career for a long time. I haven't seen the guy improve as much as I thought initially. Tyson Fury is the absolute most skilled boxer. I think he's figured out Deontay Wilder. When you back him up, his footwork becomes sloppy. He doesn't really know what to do. He's used to being the bully. He's not used to being bullied.
Right.
And I think Tyson Fury exposed his biggest weakness.
Yeah, didn't he really? I mean, I watched that fight, and my goodness, I think that. Now, so do you think Deontay Wilder took that fight a little bit lightly, though?
I think he trained really hard. One thing about Deontay Wilder I cannot take away from him is I've never seen him come into a fight unless he was in tremendous shape. You can't say that about most heavyweight boxers. There's a tradition sometimes where they overeat a little bit. We've seen it with Andy Ruiz. We saw it with Buster Douglas back in the day. A lot of them don't have the greatest discipline, but Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, those are guys that I've never seen come into fights unless they're in the absolute best shape. And the only thing I've heard about Deontay Wilder is that he's a tremendously hard worker. In the way he didn't anticipate Tyson Fury to walk forward, I don't think he anticipated his hands to be that powerful, even though he's a gigantic man, of course. And I just don't think he took his power seriously. I think he thought he was going to go in there and land that patented right hand he's been able to land on everybody else.
Okay, well, we're talking about boxing, and we have another 7 minutes or so to go. Let's have a little bit of fun with this and talk about favorite boxing movies that you have. Give me your top 10.
My top 10 boxing movies?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know if I've watched 10.
All right, well, give me your... So let me rephrase the question.
Rocky is the absolute best, though.
Okay, well, that's fine. So you got 4 or 5 more or whatever. I don't know. or you know what? I got a better idea. Rate the Rocky movies, and you also have the Creed ones as well. Rate them in the order that you think they are. We'll simplify this one. How's that?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Remembering correctly, I think Rocky 2 was the best, Rocky 1 was second, Rocky 3 was third, and Rocky 4 was terrible. That's when he was trying to be an old man and fight. Rocky is probably one of the greatest movies of all time, and the first 2 are amazing. And Creed 1 and 2 pleasantly surprised me. When I originally heard the idea, I did not think they would be anywhere near what they were. And The Raging Bull is another amazing movie that really encapsulated Jake LaMotta as a boxer and a man. You know, not a good guy by any means, but I think Robert De Niro did a fantastic job in that movie. And another boxing movie I really liked is Cinderella Man. I thought that was a great movie about a boxer that's not talked about too much. And it's not necessarily the most talked about movie like these other ones, but I think that's another great one as well. Right. But I'd say Rocky is the all-time best. And the story about how Stallone was inspired by Muhammad Ali's fight against Chuck Wepner is also an amazing story in itself. Well,
I had an opportunity to meet Chuck Wepner a long time ago, and at some point I think I've got Chuck's number. I'll have to reach out to him sometime. But yeah, Rocky 1 obviously is where it got started. I actually have to tell you, though, I enjoyed Rocky 4 because it was the us versus them. United States, Soviet Union was certainly a high one. You know, I don't know why I didn't really like Rocky 3 that much. I think Rocky 5 is the worst one because...
That's what I got mixed up with. I thought Rocky 4 is Rocky 5.
Right, no, that's okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, Rocky 5, though, it describes exactly what you're talking about, where he was too old and got beat up and he was training Tommy Morrison and all that. No, it doesn't matter. Listen, you get a mulligan for that with all this stuff you've hit me with. I don't care about that. Don't worry about it. So, but then I think they had another Rocky where Adrian had died, and then he was at that particular point had a restaurant, and then people were going out right and left. So, but I think the one with Tommy Morrison was by far and away the worst. I didn't like that. 3 was okay, you know, and but you know, anytime you get Carl Weathers involved, I still like the friendship that they created, and it shows the respect that 2 rivals had. So that kind of depicts the real life of what boxing relationships are really like. So it's no big deal. I mean, the reality is, you know, when you weren't even born when Rocky 1 came out, all you can do is just look at it later on. I mean, obviously, AMC and a lot of the other movie channels play them all the time, so you can formulate your own opinion. And I haven't had a chance to watch. I think I saw one Creed one, but I don't think I saw the other one. And but boxing they do have some incredible movies without a doubt. So you only have about 2 or 3 minutes to go. We'll have some more fun with this. This is just the introduction, folks, to Zach Hirsch. We look forward to having him on more broadcasts here in the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. So when you talk about boxing, give me the sports that you like the most in terms of just liking them. Where does boxing rank? Or for that matter, give me the top 4 or 5 sports that you really like.
Well, football was really my first love. That's a sport that I loved to play growing up and watch. So I think the fact that I was able to play it and watch it really took a big toll on it. I always loved the John Madden football video games. I'm a big Madden player. I always have been. So, and then boxing and MMA are right in there. I mean, those are 2 sports that I've always watched since I was a little kid.
Right.
And there's something about combat sports that's different for me. It's creates a different atmosphere, different feeling in my stomach before it starts.
Right.
It's really a life or death situation that's unlike any other sport. And then I've always loved basketball. Basketball is a sport I've always loved to play and watch. I got to see the Miami Heat win 3 championships as a Heat fan. That was amazing. Growing up, I loved Kobe Bryant. I used to wear a Kobe Bryant jersey to school every day, and I love seeing him win his championships later on with Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom and all those guys. And I've always liked tennis. I grew up, my dad's a big lover of racket sports.
Mm-hmm.
We've always watched, my favorite tennis player is Rafael Nadal. He's always been my favorite. He's an incredible player, so fast, so strong, and the absolute best clay court player to ever live.
Well, I will say this, okay, that being around your dad the whole time and just hanging out with him, that's an easy way to really have a passion right away. I mean, I got into the sports business when my dad had a sporting goods store, and he played softball and used to take me to a lot of events back home in Detroit. So if you're hanging around your father, it just wears on you, and that's where you develop the passion and the energy for what you do there. We got about 2 more minutes left in the with your segment, your first one, so I'll give you the floor in terms of how people can get a hold of you, and then we'll figure out when you're going to come on the program next when I talk to you, probably tomorrow. So go out there and let people know how they can get a hold of Zach Hirsch.
Zach Hirsch, he's on at iPickWins on Instagram. I have been able to amass over 220,000 people. So people are loving what they're seeing. I provide a blend of expert sports analysis, the best sports picks, and a healthy dose of me and celebrities. You get to see all different types, me and Floyd Mayweather, me and Dave Chappelle, me and all types of different people. And then my website is iPickWins.com, and that's just for my content. That's where all my picks are up, and it's in the name iPickWins.
I can only imagine how many photos you have with these guys. I'm sure that you probably kill a hard drive. Yeah, I figured that. And just be glad that you're in a point where everything's digital, because if you had to develop film, Zach, it would cost you an arm and a leg. But thankfully, you came along late in the game. If I told you how many photos I didn't get because I didn't have a digital camera, you couldn't count that high, and neither could I. But nevertheless, Zach, first act here, great first act here on the Sports Exchange. Looking forward to bringing you on again, and thank you for being with us tonight. All right, Zach?
Thank you very much. My time.
Oh, don't worry. I'm looking forward to it again. Mark my word. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Zach Hirsch, everybody. You know, one of the goals that I actually have right now is to try to get more and more boxing people involved. I won't want to get into some of the things that I'm working on now until they come closer to fruition. But I got to tell you, when I got a referral about Zach Hirsch, I was certainly interested in finding out about him. But when you have a person that has a Instagram following of 227,000 people, that's unbelievable. I mean, but you know, I have to commend a lot of people that when you hang around your father, there's no way that you cannot get absorbed in what you're doing. And again, my dad and I had a lot of good times growing up as a kid, and I'm sure that I'm speaking for a lot of people like that as well. So, meanwhile, in a few moments, I'm looking forward to having Damon Knight on the broadcast, and then we're going to cap up this broadcast with Bill Winters. So, great show lined up. And then afterwards, on our second hour of the Sports Exchange, we have a good football show lined up with Steve Ballesteri, who actually covers the New England Patriots, and David Levin will be on with us as well. So, got a great lineup tonight, and I'm continuing to work around the clock to go ahead and get us the best possible guests that we can to keep this broadcast interesting, fresh, and up to current events. So, meanwhile, just so you know, if you want to get a hold of us at South Florida Tribune, feel free to check out the website at www.southfloridatribune.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. We have a Facebook page, the South Florida Tribune, and we're also on Instagram. My personal account for Twitter is Scoop with 5 3s. And folks, you know, the one thing that we aim here to do on the broadcast, as well as throughout the network, is our goal is to make sure that you have the best quality entertainment that we can provide. All we ask you to do out there is please be safe. Don't make regretful decisions. Take COVID-19 seriously. This is something that we've never seen before when you talk about a pandemic, and I read so many stories on social media about individuals that didn't protect themselves, and also the tragic stories about the first responders that are trying to help these people. And, if you want to email us here, feel free to send all your emails and feedback to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. The one person that we could not get this thing done without is my lovely wife, Candy Ebling. She is the glue that keeps this operation together, and I'm proud of all the work that we try to work on together, and I'm very happy with the progress we've made on the broadcasting network, but by all means, we still have a long ways to go to get where we're looking to do. So if you're looking to go ahead and listen to some of our old broadcasts, you can do so by going to the podcasting section on the SouthFloridaTribune.com. And also, you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and anywhere that you can go and get your podcast. So, off to a really nice start tonight. And as I said, boxing is a sport that I've been brought up with my whole life. My first major project was with Muhammad Ali. I don't think you get any bigger than that. And I wanted to go ahead and have another great project. Sugar Ray Leonard isn't a bad one either. So, with all due respect, the sweet science is a sport that unfortunately I wish there were more events, because the sport is certainly stacked with a lot of tradition. You talk about Mike Tyson for a while, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. I've seen fights out in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. I've seen them over at Caesars, and those are some unbelievable venues to see it. And I can only imagine how much better the fight game gets when we start to see a lot more fights. So, but ESPN did a good job putting boxing on the map for the public with their Top Rank series, and they've got there are a lot of great boxing commentators. Again, one of my favorite trainers of all time has been Angelo Dundee, and he helped me get Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. So, good show lined up. I'm looking forward to Damon Knight coming on any moment. He's going to talk about Al Kaline. And speaking of Damon Knight, I want to welcome South Florida Tribune correspondent Damon Knight to the broadcast. And Damon, first of all, before you even come on the broadcast, I want to wish you a happy birthday, Damon.
Thank you, Scoop. Yeah, big 2-7. Yeah.
Big 2-7. My goodness, I'm double your age and a few years prior. So, what have you been doing to celebrate your birthday, Mr. Knight?
Working like always. Woke up today. I bought a Harry Potter puzzle. I finished that, and then around 5 o'clock, left for here. Got here, and just been doing my board operating job and just waiting till I can go. So,
what radio station do you represent back in Detroit?
WMUZ. It's a Christian radio station at 103.5.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, the purpose of this broadcast isn't one that really that I particularly like the theme, because unfortunately one of our heroes of all time, Al Kaline, passed away. However, with that said, you wrote a story for the South Florida Tribune, so I'd like you to let our listeners know a lot about what you came up with when you put it out there.
Al Kaline was just an icon, somebody that you cannot be a sportsman and not hear of. And he was just one of those stand-up people. He was humble. He was well-respected. He was a team player. He was the ultimate gentleman. Could talk to anybody and just treat him with the utmost respect. And he was kind and generous. That was one of the main things that was highlighted when they interviewed players like Justin Verlander, Dave Dombrowski, and asked them what stands out to you the most, and they said kindness and generosity. And he did that very well in his personal life and on the field. He was a man of great achievements. He won the AL batting title in 1953 at age 20 with an average of .340, and he had 10 Golden Gloves in right field. He had a fielding percentage of .987. He also won the World Series title in '68, the Roberto Clemente Award in 1973, and then he retired the following year. So, and his Hall of Fame inauguration in 1980, and then he had his number retired. So just a man of just great respect and great achievement, just a well-rounded person.
Yeah, he sure was. I had the opportunity to
Yep.
meet Al Kaline a couple of times. I once talked to him
Yes.
in spring training, although it was hard to always do it because you never knew where he was at in places where I couldn't find him or get into to the clubhouse. But nevertheless, I did talk to him once. I never took a photo with him because, you know, he had to
Yeah.
be careful with the PR people. However, Candy Ebling did take a photo of him and Jim Leland. So Kaline and Jim Leland were really close. So talk about the local reaction about Al Kaline. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, this will go on for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's much like the Kobe Bryant situation where it was a worldwide thing because he was so respected by everybody. You know, everybody's in a state of sadness right now given the COVID situation, but yeah, everybody recognizes that he passed away, and it's really sad. It's something different from Kobe Bryant. You know, he's so respected. Like I said earlier about how he was respected, he was humble, he's, you know, a team player, ultimate gentleman, you know. So anytime a person like that passes away, you tend to notice because he left a big impact on the world.
Sure did. I remember when Gordie Howe passed away, and obviously that was huge in the Metro Detroit area. I don't think that you can have two bigger giants, especially in the last several years, than Gordie Howe and Al Kaline. I mean, these two here personify Detroit, is what they really
and
did.
then Ernie Harwell too as well.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, God, Ernie Harwell is one of my all-time favorites. So, with that said, okay, yeah, let me get into a great Ernie Harwell story. And Ernie Harwell, to me, you know, he was like an uncle to me, a mentor and a lot of things, and a friend. And I remember many, many times when I was going ahead, and we'd go on the road, I would always take Ernie back to his hotel. And I enjoyed driving him because, you know, he always gave me insights about life and all kinds of things. And it was just, to me, way too surreal. But tonight belongs to Al Kaline. So, you know, give me more reaction about everything in general about Al.
Just that, you know, you watch his highlights, you see that he was a really passionate person that loved baseball with all his heart. That's what I got from just interviews, listening to John Keating talk about him. He just loved baseball. That's all he wanted to do. And giving all of his achievements, going into the Hall of Fame was like his ultimate, like that was like his, you know, if he had a top 10 list, that was his number one. And he just said that he would never deliberately do anything to hurt the game of baseball or the Tigers in any way. You know, you look at him rejecting that huge contract over, I think it was like $100,000 or something like that, and he rejected it. He felt like he didn't deserve that. You know, he felt like a player should not be worth that much. You know, because it's just a simple game. But you know, nowadays it's like that's a joke compared to other players' salaries. But that just shows the kind of man that he was. He was just humble. You know, no matter what the situation was.
Well, that $100,000 that he ended up getting translates into over $600,000 during this time. It's amazing exactly what it was. But yeah, like I said, my dealings with Al, like everybody on the planet, if you've been around Al Kaline, you certainly definitely know that you know, he's just a one of a kind type of person. And don't forget, we can't forget that he had a incredible Game 6 against the St. Louis Cardinals in 1968. So of all the stats that you saw as you looked at Kaline, which one stands out to you the most?
The one that stands out to me the most, I would say the 10 Golden Gloves. It just shows the dominance at that position. You know what I mean? You get very few players nowadays that completely dominate for a long period of time in that singular position. You know, when I think greatest catcher right now, I think of Buster Posey. Or if you think pitching, you think Clayton Kershaw because he's won 3 or 4 Cy Youngs in a row. And yeah, just that. And, you know, not winning enough. You know, he won 1 World Series. I'm surprised he didn't, you know, win more, giving not just him and the other players that were around him. I'm surprised by that.
Well,
but definitely the 10 Gold Gloves.
In 1971, though, the Tigers came very close, but they fell short to the Oakland A's in a 5-game series. So that would have been a second opportunity. At that time, Billy Martin was a manager of the Detroit Tigers, and Billy took a team that was really fairly old and got it to really overachieve is really what he did. And, you know, I can appreciate the tandem of George Kell and Al Kaline on the air for WDIV back then when they were carrying Tigers games. I don't know if you were old enough to actually go ahead and watch those games, or whether they've actually gone ahead and shown them back in Detroit, because, again, obviously I'm not there anymore, so I don't know how much stuff they're showing. But when you have Fox Sports, are they replaying any of his old broadcasts or anything? I imagine that they got to be filling the airwaves with all kinds of Kaline material.
Yes, they've been playing a lot of games from the 1990s. I saw the other day, I was at my buddy's house, and I noticed that they were showing the Tigers versus the Kansas City Royals, and the date was May 20-something of 1990, and I was like, wow. So I've never seen Tiger Stadium full of fans, because I wasn't old enough to go to those games. I was kind of born a little bit after, and then Comerica Park came up in 2005.
Right.
So I never really got to go to a game, but yeah, it was exciting, and it's such a rich stadium, with all its history. And then I didn't realize that Al Kaline was that heavily involved in broadcasting after his career, and I was really blown away by that.
Wow, that's where that thing called age stands out. So another question for you. When you look at the legacy of Al Kaline, I know the Illiches were very creative when they put together a statue, but the statue that they put together was Kaline's defensive abilities and the way he used to rob players, hitters of home runs, especially with that short right field porch out in Tiger Stadium. What are your thoughts about a guy that gets a statue erected, let alone the fact that it is a defensive statue?
I just think it goes to show you how dominant he was. Like I just said, with the 10 Golden Gloves, that is why. And just not only that, just his personality that got him that statue, his fielding percentage, everything he stood for. That's why it's there. And that's what I think. That's all I think most people remember about him, about his baseball career, was his defensive play rather than his offensive. And so, defense wins championships, and that statement is still true to this day, in my opinion, with any sports, as far as baseball or hockey or anything that goes.
Yeah, I think so. I think that when you talk about the gold standard with Al Kaline, I once did ask him a long time ago, did he regret not hitting that 400th home run? He told me he did, but at that time, he said, I'm not going to second guess what I did. I left when I felt I had to do. And the 3,000 hits mattered more. I think one of the stats that stands out to me, however, is he got 3,000 hits and 1,500 RBIs. He's one of 7 people to do it with one franchise.
Yeah,
that to me is unbelievable.
Against Baltimore. Yeah, I was listening to your podcast before I did this, and I was blown away by that too. That a hometown kid got his 3,000th hit there, so that was
in
pretty
Baltimore,
sweet.
Yeah, off Dave McNally, that's for sure. And because again, it's amazing too. And the Tigers and the Baltimore Orioles were rivals for many, many years in the American League East until obviously they changed. Detroit moved on to the to the Central Division, and they had the new rivals. So the rivalry goes back. I've often viewed that rivalry amongst any of those teams was pretty good. Why don't you give me some closing thoughts, and then we'll let everybody know how they can reach you.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see Al Kaline, but it would probably have been really cool to see him play. I'm sure a lot of people looked up to him in some sort of way, and he's just a legend. Just somebody that you can't not love. He's like Michael Jordan for basketball.
Right.
Steve Eisman for hockey. You can't miss it. It's saddening. You hate to see somebody like this go away. Forever. So, it's just such a great example of what a baseball player should be.
Okay, we got another minute or two to go in your segment, so why don't you let people know, Damon, how they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Damon Knight. I'll be under a black and white photo with a microphone. Twitter, it's at Damon with a capital D, capital KN, 1993. You also can find me on the South Florida Tribune. Just type in Damon Knight, and you'll find my stories. And that's pretty much it. And then follow us on Spreaker,
Yeah, we have Apple
Spotify.
Podcast, Spreaker,
Yeah.
Spotify,
Yeah.
iHeartRadio,
Yeah. Yeah.
Google. And again, the thing I really enjoyed about you that I have to let the audience know that what impresses me most about what you bring to the table editorially is the fact that you go after particular trends. I don't limit you just to write stories in the Detroit area, and I think that's good because you need to be well-rounded and
Yes.
about everything. Because nowadays, in a digital era, people are not relegated to a specific era. I mean, sure, you want to talk about your hometown sports. I get that, and also Damon is a member of the Detroit Sports Media,
Yes.
an organization for which I belong to as well, along with my longtime colleague George Eichhorn as well. So I know you had an opportunity to go out there and go to an event. Obviously, you know full well that it's your responsibility for your own self to
Yes.
get to as many as you can. The pandemic thing is certainly going to make it difficult for now, but you've got a lot of other things. Any story ideas that you're thinking about writing about pretty soon?
Thinking about next. I'm just waiting on like when Cam Newton's gonna sign with the team. I might do something on the latest uniforms that are being released in the NFL. I know Tampa Bay did theirs a couple of days ago, then the Atlanta yesterday. So something like that, something new and something fresh. Yeah.
Well, just keep scouting around. We always look forward to seeing your articles and getting them up there. I certainly believe in my mind that I give my writers all the necessary flexibility that they need to get, because after all, I brought them on for a reason, not to micromanage you, but to give you an opportunity to find out what you have to do at crunch time. But meanwhile, Damon, I'm so glad that you came on the broadcast
Thank
tonight,
you.
and I want to once again wish you a happy birthday and
Thanks, Scoop.
hope that you have many, many more. But I'm so proud of the progress you made. But the one thing I've always told you, self-evaluate and continue to get better, because I think, in my opinion, the sky's the limit for you. I will do everything in my power to help you get where you need to go. But thanks for being on the
Thank you.
Sports Exchange, and
Appreciate
enjoy
it.
what's left of your birthday,
Yeah.
and we will
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Yeah.
Good night,
Yeah.
Damon.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Appreciate it. Bye.
You bet. All right, Damon Knight, everybody. And again, he's one of my young guys that I really enjoy bringing on the broadcast every time we get a chance to do it. And I'm really proud of the progress he's made, but I think he'll be the first to admit that nobody should ever go ahead and feel comfortable with what you're doing. It's always good to self-evaluate yourself, but not to a point where it affects your confidence at all. Once again, folks, I can't emphasize this enough. Please go out there and be safe and keep yourself out of harm's way. It's not worth risking your life over this COVID-19 pandemic. We don't know how long this is going to take place at all. I get that. But if you please wear a mask every time you get out in public. It is so necessary to do that. You never know when you can get this virus, and if you do, it gets nasty. And if you're out there, please wear a mask, protective gloves, and anything that you can do to avoid the necessary things that would come down to it. Once again, you're listening to Sports Exchange on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, and we have a lot of great shows here on the network, and we'll have another edition of the Sports Exchange as well. So, I'm really proud of what we've done on the network, and there's no question that our goal is to continue to make the product better. So, if you ever want to reach out to me, feel free to call my cell phone number at 954-304-4941, 954-304-4941. If I don't pick up the phone, please leave a voicemail, and I'll be more than happy to go out there and try to get back to you. Again, we have a lot of great things to look at. One of the things I love about our publication is that we have Reuters involved. Some of our media distribution partners include the Miami Marlins locally, the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, just to name a few of some of the local colleges that we work with, Florida Atlantic University, Lynn University. I'm proud of the relationship we have with my alma mater, the University of South Florida, and we're glad to have the Florida Gators on the team as well. The Gators undoubtedly are one of the biggest universities in the state, and any time you have a following such as the Gators, who do draw well when they come to South Florida, that Gator alumni base is truly incredible. We also have content coming in from the Daytona International Speedway. I'm very proud of the fact that we have content coming in for the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So, again, I don't care where it comes in as long as it's ethical, and we feel that we can promote younger athletes as well as some of the as well as the established ones. That's what this is all about. And if there's any ideas that you have about content you want on the show, feel free to go to southfloridatribune.com. We do have a suggestion box out there. We'll be more than happy to look at those ideas, evaluate them, and if we can go out there and make them work, we will do everything in our power to make them work. Some of the great guests that we bring on here are Michael Keller, our football guest. We also have Mel Farr comes on. Mark Littell is one of my favorite guests. I've worked with Mark for a long, long time. I don't think there's a more colorful person out there than Mark Littell. When it comes to talking about baseball, it's one thing, but Mark Littell has a very impressive product called At Nutty Buddy, which talks about protective gear below the abdomen, and Mark is certainly one of our favorite guests. Some of our regular contributors include Rick Curdy and David Levin. These guys work tirelessly throughout the network and to be on in many ways, and they contribute hard. We will be bringing on some new shows. Get ready for previews of the South Florida Tribune podcast. I'm very proud to bring on Lynn LaSalle. She'll be on there with us, providing a non-sports perspective with what we do. Lynn is consistent every single Monday, and I'm looking forward to the energy that she's going to bring to the broadcast. So we're looking forward to bringing on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and that'll be our version of Monday Night Baseball. David Levin and I are looking to go ahead and keep this fresh, and I also want to give a nice shout out to my longtime colleague George Eichhorn for the contributions he's had, and I wouldn't be in the journalism business without the help of my mentor Tony DeMarco. In life, you can never have enough good mentors out there, and Tony, you're certainly one of the best, and I can't thank you enough. I had an opportunity to connect with a couple of people this afternoon. One of my great friends and colleagues, Rick Green, who used to be with the Deerfield Beach Chamber of Commerce, and Deerfield Beach Observer, and he worked with the Pompano Beach Chamber of Commerce. And another person who's going to get some more time will be Coach Mike Jarvis, who I had an opportunity to work at Florida Atlantic University. And Mike and I are very, very good friends. I'll start to preview a lot more of the involvement that Mike will have down the road. But the guests that we continue to have on here, to me, are just sensational people. They really, really are. And Michael Santos is another mixed martial arts. He's my hockey expert. He's a person that we really look to when the time comes. One of the guys that helped me get involved with this particular format was Jeff Edelman, a personal injury attorney who I met through the Coral Springs Chamber of Commerce. So, these are the guys that are all behind the scenes. Ron Renzi's another guy who's my legal correspondent, and he definitely is a big part of what we've done. I love talking about auto racing. IMSA sends us a lot of great material as well. So, lots of contributions all over the place. And to me, it's very good that we can be the most well-rounded online publication. At a time where newspapers are going away, we take pride in the fact that we're trying to grasp the digital side of this as much as we possibly can. And to me, it's vital that we can keep this continuity going. So, but meanwhile, Zach Hirsch has done a good job. Damon Knight brings it to you. David Levin and I, just to preview our show later on today, we're looking forward to introducing Steve Ballesteri later on. David and I will talk with Steve. Steve is a member of the Professional Football Writers Association and is a writer for PatsFans.com. So, feel free to contact me at 954-304-4941 if you have any questions. So, we are really looking forward to a lot of the things that we have in store. Another guy who I should point out who's a great young writer is Louis Adio Weiss. Louis, to me, has been a really good, strong contributor, and we're proud of the work that Louis does. We welcome our next guest, former New York Giants offensive lineman Bill Winters. Bill, thanks for being on the broadcast. Glad to have you on.
My pleasure, Scott. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. And Bill, we're gonna make it easy on you tonight and talk about some light-hearted football stuff. And we're gonna lead off with former NFL executive said that Tua Tagovailoa has failed 2 physicals and had unknown wrist injuries. What's your take on that as we approach the draft, Bill?
Well, if I'm a general manager, okay, I'm not going to draft him in the top 10. I think that sets well for some of the more established teams who may get a steal. He says he's healthy, but until we get a chance to look at him, with an MRI, which I think he's scheduled to do tomorrow in either Birmingham or Nashville, don't know more about the extent of the injury. But I'm going to work him out. I'm going to hold on. I'm going to send some guys down in the car and get him on the field and old school him and run him till he drops, and then run him again till he drops, and run him again till he drops to see whether or not he is 100%. Because all this business of sending videos out doesn't mean anything until you put the pads on. This is a very physical game. A lot of these college players, it takes them a year or two to adapt because they're playing against guys that are, been in the league, 27 to 20 years, they fully developed. He's still a pup, but he's got a lot of talent. But I just don't think that right now that he's too risky a draft choice to go in the top 10.
No question about it, Bill. I mean, first of all, he had a hard time holding up in college. Stick him up against a bunch of men. And if you think he was fragile then, I can only imagine how much more fragile he'll be in the pros.
Yeah, that's what, now there might be somebody out there that takes a risk. But if I'm a general manager and you go ahead and draft a kid in the first round and he doesn't deliver, you're going to set back your franchise at least a couple of years. So, you're also investing a ton of money in a guy that may not produce. There's just too many unknowns here. So I think he's going to fall to the later rounds, but I think somebody might pick him up. I keep thinking New England might get him, but I think somebody will draft him before that. But I don't think he's going in the top 10.
No, you know what, Bill? I couldn't agree with you more. I really can't. I mean, Tua to me, he certainly has the talent, but again, and the one thing we can't lose sight of, Bill, is if a general manager or personnel people miss on this choice, don't think that their jobs aren't on the line either, because let's face it, you build franchises. You do take risks, but when you have a guy, what I call Bill, as damaged goods, I don't know. That's got red flag written all over it for me, Bill. So.
Well, a lot of people would feel the same way you do. Some guys can slip through the cracks. Sometimes, actually, it turns into a positive because they never have the injury again. Right. But in this case, based on his history, now what did you hear about? What his physical elements were? I know we got the hip. What else did you read about as far as failing?
The wrist injuries, Bill. The wrist injuries.
Okay, what did you hear?
Well, that's what I had heard. Okay, I didn't hear any more about that. I just know that the person that went anonymous said, outside of his hip, the wrist injury. So if you have a wrist injury, obviously, especially at quarterback, that's a problem anyhow. So anything that, but that was the extent of where I at. And again, I don't like anonymous sources, but whether you have anonymous sources or not, to me, and you look at his injury history, I could deal with the anonymous sources, you know what I mean, Bill, based on what we've seen in front of us. And again, the lack of the ability to get in front of him certainly works against him this year because nobody like you're saying, Bill, you don't have the eye test. But wrist injuries, hip injuries, what else do I need to say about that?
Well, the only thing I want to say is this. Okay, if I'm a general manager,
right?
Okay, and I want this kid I want to draft a quarterback, and I think this kid is rated number 1. And personally, I don't think he's the best quarterback in the draft. Okay, he's got to show me that he can put a touch on the ball, that he can move around the pocket a little bit better. He doesn't have to run, but he has to be able to move around and shift in the backfield back there during pass rush. All right, and he doesn't have great speed. All right, and he is injury prone.
Oh, yeah.
So if I really like him, and I think he's the guy that I want, I'm getting 2 or 3 of my top scouts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I'm getting in the car and I'm driving down, and I'm going to work him out like a racehorse for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the MRIs and do everything I can to make sure that when I draft this kid, that I'm not making a mistake and get egg on my face. But I just think, it's just, for me, if I'm a general manager, I'm just not sold on him being the best quarterback in the draft. I think he played with a loaded team at Alabama. That's the first thing.
Right.
He couldn't stay healthy. He threw a lot of balls in the flat that turns into big gains because he had tremendous receivers.
Right. That's true.
And a very, in Alabama, they were loaded. So I want to see what he does when there's a level playing field. All right. And, just a lot of little things that I saw that, I wish the kid a lot of luck, but he still is a rookie. Okay, and I just think that it's better for the development of if he's drafted in the later rounds with a more established team,
right,
where he can develop and not be thrown into the dogs.
Well,
Okay, I didn't like what Washington did with Haskins last year. I thought that was cruel.
Right.
All right, I'm more of a solid teams will draft really good guys and develop them. All right, and give them a chance to learn and spend a year on the bench and learn the offense, and you really see a quantum leap in their second year. And I really think that's what Tua needs. And if I'm a general manager, that's what I'm thinking is I'm going to get this kid in the late rounds if he's available, or maybe even the second round, depending on how well I evaluate the MRI.
Yeah, no question about it, Bill. First of all, he had Jerry Jeudy and I believe Henry Ruggs as two of his targets, and I happened to see those guys play when I was over at the Citrus Bowl with the Wolverines and the Crimson Tide. That's item number one. So, and I do believe that Tua is definitely a type of guy that should hold a clipboard, Bill, and should have a redshirt year. So, and right now the NFL's you need to win now, and I agree. I personally, if I were making a prediction, 10 to 20 is where I think I would put him in the range. That's what I would do if he's in the first round. Although, who knows? With the New England Patriots, possible that if he slides down that far, I don't think he gets to the Patriots anyways. I really don't. But yeah, I don't. But that's a team that's really in transition. That'll be for another time. But I'm totally agree with you on all points. Next subject, Bill. Speaking of Tua, let's talk about former Patriots quarterback Tom Brady. His merchandise sales spiked 3,000% after the Bucs unveiled their uniforms. Brady ended up ranking second among the NFL players in merchandise sales in 2019, behind Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Well, we knew full well that the Buccaneers are going to put a lot of people in the stands and the merchandise sales. But what are your thoughts about Tom Brady and the impact he's having before he even gets on the field?
Well, Tampa's my second home.
Okay.
I used to be a Buccaneers season ticket holder when they were really, really good, and when they won the Super Bowl in 2003. The first thing that I noticed is they're just kind of going back to the jerseys that they used to have from 1997 to 2013. All right, and the numbers are just regular, nondescript numbers. The jerseys are basically the same. All right, so that's the first thing, and that really was because the fans really didn't like the old uniforms that they had with those, with sky-rated numbers. Secondly, you're bringing in a guy that's the GOAT, all right, who has something to prove that needs to change his scenery. I truly believe that the Buccaneers are going to be a threat to the Saints in that division because of the fact that they lost so many games last year. I think 6 or 7 games by a touchdown or less.
Right.
And a lot of that was Jameis throwing picks.
Right.
And I don't like how people are piling on Jameis Winston either. A lot of people saying he's a bust. It's crap.
No,
Jameis can play in the league. He just needs to cut back the interceptions. And I think a change of scenery for him and getting with a good team. I still like him with the Steelers. I always think of him as a Charlie Batch type guy. I would love to have a guy like Jameis Winston coming off the bench. The kid does have a heater, and he can get hot and carry it. He's just got to be more disciplined in the pocket and stop throwing so many picks. Right. So, it's so hard to find quarterbacks that can play in this league that are a valuable commodity. And now when you have Tom Brady with the Buccaneers, this guy sold more jerseys on the retail website, in one day than the previous 17 days combined. He also set a record for, an NFL team. He's leading all sports team in sales. All right, so this is what happens when you have, you've been in the league for 20 years and you've got 6 Super Bowl wins. Your sales are going to be up from 3,000% from the previous day. So, and what I love is that this is an environment where people are sitting at home and getting restless because of the quarantine. Okay, so what better way to get a jersey delivered right to your front door? All right, so they're going back to the throwback culture of 97 and 2013. I think the team is going to catch fire. I'd like them to make the playoffs, They may not be the best team in the division against the Saints, but they're going to be right there, and it should be a lot of fun, and it's going to rock and roll Tampa, and I'll be down there for a couple games.
Well,
Sure.
I want to add
it's going to be fun.
I want to add a couple things to what you said. Number one, anybody that thinks Jameis Winston is a bust needs to have their head examined. Period. Okay, he performed well again, maybe a few extra turnovers more than he wanted to, but he can play in this league, and I think he should go ahead and, go to hope a team like Pittsburgh snaps him up once his asking price goes down and he takes a year just to kind of chill. Because remember, not like Ben Roethlisberger's the healthiest chap on the planet either, so he could get an opportunity to play right away.
I always tell not to interrupt you, Scotty, you need two. If you're going to win a championship, you got to have two quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
How many Super Bowls have we seen from back in the days of Earl Morrall and Don Strock, Dan Marino? You need Charlie Batch, and
right.
Came off the bench a lot for the Steelers. He used to play for Detroit, too.
Right.
So, there's a premium on quarterbacks. I like Jameis Winston's swag. I think he's been humbled a little bit, but, he's also in a situation right now where he's in the same boat as Camden.
Well,
they're just going to have to wait till after the draft to see how teams fill their needs, and
right.
then maybe take a pay cut and have the ability to pick a team that he wants to go to.
Well, I don't think the Buccaneers have had this much publicity in their entire franchise history, but then again, when you bring in the GOAT, what do you expect? Now, a little piece of information about Charlie Batch, though, Bell. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions and Coach Bobby Ross, so I definitely out of Eastern Michigan University. So I'm very familiar with Charlie Batch. And yes, Bill, without a doubt, the Miami Dolphins' perfect season wouldn't have been a perfect season after Bob Greasy went down if you didn't have Earl Morrall going ahead and piling up those wins. And of course, you want to talk about Drew Bledsoe going down due to an injury. Then you had Tom Brady finishing the job, and again, that list goes on and on. So
if I had Jameis Winston as a quarterback coach, the first thing that I would do is I'd put on the film of Charlie Batch playing quarterback for the Detroit Lions, coming down to Tampa Stadium, and I have to sit in the stands for that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Charlie got sacked, I want to say literally a dozen times. But
right.
He never threw the ball away. They just punted the ball, and they pulled the game out in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And that Jameis needs to learn that. He's trying to do too much. And I think sometimes when an organization trades you, it's the best thing for a player because he gets a new environment and he really hunkers down, on doing the little things that got him out of there before.
Right.
Because deep down he feels like he let the organization down.
Wow.
He didn't develop, and they gave him another year.
Right.
And they brought a coach in, Arians, that was had made a decision about it. All right, but to lose out to Tom Brady, trust me when I tell you, I lost my job to a guy by the name of Nate Newton.
Right.
And we had a pretty so everything's relative. Okay,
right.
So you have to sit back and go. This is a very competitive league. Guys got a lot of talent. So I just think it's good for both parties, and I'm loving the culture that's going down there in Tampa right now. And but I still like Jameis Winston as a quarterback. I just think that it's an upgrade with Tom Brady, and I don't think anybody can dispute that.
Well, when you get down to
making a trade for Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is.
When you get down to Tampa, you will have to contact me. We'll get together there since you call it your second home. There's no question about that for sure. But yeah,
I'll be there for the Super Bowl, if not before.
Oh yeah, no worry. I know how to take that 4-hour drive, Bill, in my sleep, so don't worry about that. So, but yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm pulling for Jameis Winston. I really am. Two other things I want to get to tonight, Bill. Okay, Emmanuel Sanders says he's waited years to get back in a pass-happy offense. The last time he was in such an offense was when he was working with Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos. So, hey, you know what, Bill? I like it when guys are happy and they're not spouting off and they're enthusiastic about that fresh start, which a lot of guys do need a change of scenery. And Emmanuel Sanders, to me, is one of the most underrated running wide receivers out there. To be the second receiver to Michael Thomas isn't the worst thing on the planet either when you got Drew Brees throwing you the football.
Well, I happen to know him a little bit. He lives here in Houston. He went to SMU. So I run into him once or twice over the years. And I watched him go out to Denver and get the money that he deserved. I was kind of surprised that, he was out of there after 1 year. But I think he's really, really happy going to the Saints and playing with Brees because as far as he's concerned, he needs to get some more touches. All right, and, I just am really happy for him. He's waited years to be in a pass happy offense, and Easy can deliver. And he's a great receiver. And so I'm really, really happy for him. It should be a great fit for Breeze. I'm sure Breeze is happy as heck with his job. But you got to remember one thing, too. He's also 33 years old. So he's no spring chicken.
Hey, listen.
So this is huge for him.
Let me tell you.
Players, when they get to be that age, they want to go out a winner and reach their potential. He's been held back a little bit. So now he's got an opportunity to, have his cake and eat it, too.
Let me tell you, the attitude that Sanders has is he's figuring if he has about another 2 or 3 years to go, might as well go out with the best possible offense you can get. So I don't think he's really worried about the age 33. I mean, if he plays till 35, 36, not the worst thing on the planet. All right, final subject to get to, Bill.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'll add to this.
Yeah.
Okay. Drew Brees, may play another year or two.
Right.
Or maybe 3.
Uh-huh.
All right, so Emmanuel's going there to both of those guys are looking at prolonging each other's careers.
Good point.
And Emmanuel Sanders can latch on to Drew Brees, and if Drew Brees keeps playing lights out, he may play another couple of years. All right, and sort of be like Brady, play later than a lot of people think. Same thing with Emmanuel Sanders. People get on this age thing, they start looking to get rid of you.
Right.
But with the advances in modern technology today, as far as taking care of your body and everything these players are doing, Easy might wind up playing a lot longer because him and Drew have got a connection, and also vice versa. It's good for Drew. So I'm really hoping that I see him around in Houston and see him, light it up with the Saints and see a happy camper. This is a great guy, really great guy.
Excellent point, Bill, with an exclamation point. Okay. Now, a final subject of the night. A burger joint is actually honoring Bill's wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, with 4 patty creations. When I looked at the burger, it was a stack burger that had, like I said, the 4 patty. And part of the stuff, and I don't want to get too much into it because I'm going to get hungry, so I'm going to just let people look at it on social media. And if you're looking for Splurge Day, get a Stephon Diggs burger. We actually have a place here in Deerfield Beach called Tucker Duke's, which makes some pretty awesome hamburgers, but that's as far as I'm going to go. But just to give you a sample of what this burger has on it, it's like a bacon blue crumble with blue cheese, thick cut bacon, cheese creamy, blue cheese spread with a demon patty. And I will say this much about it, okay? Diggs joins the ranks of Bills players with food items named after them. So in reality, I got to tell you, Buffalo, okay, embraces their players, and they traded a lot of picks to get to them. I hope that, they get their return on investment instead of seeing another Herschel Walker trade where those picks amount to a Super Bowl for the Vikings. But Buffalo is not known to be a free agent hotspot. So I'm really actually happy for Stephon Diggs, and I hope he enjoys the Buffalo community because I know that they embrace their heroes. Jim Kelly certainly at the top of the list. And the list goes on and on. So what are your thoughts about Stephon Diggs not only getting a burger, but the fit in Buffalo?
Well, the first thing is when you break down the burger, okay, you're looking at 4 patties on 2 buns.
Right.
And each patty is different, represents a different kind of culture as far as what people like to eat. The first patty is the bacon blue patty,
right.
With the blue cheese and the creamy blue cheese spread. The next one is the demon patty. Okay, that's got your jalapenos and your banana bell peppers and your cheese and garlic. The third one is your Vinny Boombox patty, for the Italian guys with mozzarella cheese and pepperoni and all that. Bruschetta. Okay, and then you got the cowboy ups on the 4th patty. It's the rodeo patty. Okay, it's got onion rings, cheese, and Lounsbury brown sugar and barbecue sauce. So, people are I'm looking at this burger and I'm going, you know what? It's a heart attack on a bun. But the reality is I'll break down and have one of these days, one day when I want to have a cheat meal. And I love the name of the burger, Can You Dig It? But instead of dig, it's Diggs. Can You Diggs It? So I'm sitting at a menu. Let me have a Can You Diggs It burger.
Oh, my
It's great
gosh.
marketing.
Yeah.
I'm really, really happy that he's got his own burger. Okay, he's up there with, Dion Dawkins, who's got his mac and cheese dish at Mooney's.
Right.
Restaurant in Buffalo, so he's not the only guy.
Uh-huh.
And I think, what's the name of the hamburger place? They had this burger, the Stack Burger.
There you go.
Okay, so it's good for everybody. It's some real good publicity. They move a lot of product. Okay, and they're jumping in there and having a good time with it. So I mean, you got to understand, Buffalo gave up a lot for him.
Yeah.
The sixth of the first round, in 2020.
Right.
And the fourth round pick in 2021, so they're not playing. So, this is, again, like with Emmanuel Sanders, this is a veteran receiver who's coming in here who wants to win. And he's going up to Buffalo, where it's tough for receivers to catch balls, but I think he likes what he saw and the quarterback they have there, so I'm wishing them a lot of luck. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Josh Allen. So, you know what, Bill? I have to tell you, it's very refreshing when I see these types of stories instead of some of the obvious things we talk about. And I think the two refreshing ones that we've talked about more so tonight that I'm really happy that we did talk about is the Sanders one as well as Stephon Diggs. Don't get me wrong. We have a responsibility, Bill, to go out there and talk about everything involved. But when I have an opportunity to come up with some things like this, and that really makes me feel pretty good. All right. With that said, Bill.
Scott, I'll throw this out at you,
sure.
too.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had, and I make this joke around that Tom Brady finally landed, where I landed in the 80s with the Tampa Bay Bandits, and it's just all about lifestyle. You remember that I used to work as a bouncer for a bunch of guys that were out of Buffalo.
Right.
With a nightclub and a bar called Mickey Rats. All right, so I have some friends up in Buffalo that I still speak with. And I was supposed to go to a game last year, all right, but they came down to Tampa for a game. This year I'm coming up. I'm going to go up to Buffalo, so I'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll do a show from up there in Buffalo.
Absolutely.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing how Stephon Diggs does with the Bills. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd be open to the idea, Bill, of you doing a show anywhere you want in the country. That'd be pretty good stuff. I'll look forward to that.
Get these crazy loonies on there. You might think twice.
Oh, no, I don't think
diehard Bills fans.
I don't think twice. After all, once upon a time, I covered the Lions and the Raiders at the in Oakland, and if you can handle that, then you can handle pretty much of anything. And I've been to Philadelphia.
They were blowing up my phone when the Bills came down here to play the Texans last year.
I can only imagine.
That was a great football game.
I can only imagine. All right, well, Bill, we got another minute and a half or so to go in the broadcast tonight. So this is your opportunity to let them know how to get a hold of the Wild Bill Winters.
Well, you can. I'd love for you guys to subscribe to my YouTube channel and grow with me there. Just go to youtube.com/Bill Winters55. You can go to my website where I'd love for you to read my book that I wrote back in the 80s, from the outhouse to the penthouse and somewhere in between. You go to billwinters.biz. You go to Instagram, bwinters55. You can follow me on Twitter, Bill_Winters55. And of course, you can find us on our show. If you go to Spotify, iHeart, or Apple, or some of the other podcast search engines, you'll see our show Motormouth and Wild Bill Winters. And Motormouth is 2 words, ladies and gentlemen. And the show will come right up, and you'll see our catalog of 26 shows that we've done on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network.
Right.
Guys, I'm going to tell you this flat out. I think you'll be really happy if you grow with us. I'm listening to the competition. I don't think they're in our league.
Right.
I think we bring veteran guys in here. We've got a good mix of young guys, so we can cover all the sports things. We won't waste your time. Get right to the dealio, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Bill, I got to tell you this. We opened the show, and he's going to probably, you'll be on the program with him down the line, with a young 18-year-old sports handicapper. And this kid has an incredible way of producing winners. I bring on young guys from time to time. If they're referrals, it's good. But we welcome Zach Hirsch to the family today. And Zach, to me, is a young guy that we're looking forward to getting more involved. So I'm looking forward to having you and him talk at some point.
Yeah, Scott, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I can see us sitting in a stadium, 4 or 5 years from now with our smartphone and doing some small gambling and playing fantasy, and they'll probably have an interactive app. All right, so technology is changing the way the youngsters are viewing sports. I'll really look forward to talking with him, regarding handicapping and all those types of things. And, you know, I just think that the younger generation wants to be engaged in watching sports and maybe print some Benjamins off of a smartphone while they're being entertained watching a game. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. And that's one of the reasons why we're cutting edge. Right. The intel that we're going to give people on our show, all right, and the ability to understand the big picture and get to there one step ahead of the competition is why I think we're going to, you know, be in the premier spot when it comes to podcasts.
I have no question about that too, Bill. But meanwhile, we had a great show tonight. I want to thank all of our guests tonight. Zach Hirsch, who led it off. Damon Knight, who celebrated his birthday and talked about Kaline. And, of course, you are my closer tonight, Bill. Once again, good job. I don't want to think about food right now because that burger does look awfully good. And I'm glad that you're the one who got writer's cramp where you're looking at something to tell me all the ingredients because I couldn't get past the first and second patty with it. But meanwhile, I want to go ahead and thank all of our guests for being on the broadcast tonight. Bill, as usual, great job. And look forward to having you on the Sports Exchange come Tuesday night. Meanwhile, Bill, have yourself a wonderful weekend. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And once again, folks, please be safe out there and responsible. Wear the mask and all the gloves and all the things that are necessary. It's not worth it. And we hope that you can go ahead and subscribe, listen, download the broadcast. And it's our goal to make sure that you have the best quality entertainment out there. And I think Bill Winters can agree with that, right, Bill, as we close the broadcast?
As we like to say in pro football, do your job. All right, and do it with a lot of love in your heart, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
All right, with that said, I can't beat this one, Bill. Good night, everybody.